Cancer. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for May of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Gale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco.
If Cancer is your sun sign, then your annual mop-up period is going to begin at the end of this month. That's the 30 days before your birthday. Getting a birthday reading now positions you the most powerfully for your personal new year. You'll find a link to help you do that in the YouTube description below. Well, Cancer, what have we got in store for you this month? Jupiter is changing signs this month, and that's going to be a really big deal. Also, Ceres enters your sign of Cancer, and then we'll have some news also about Mercury, Venus, and Mars pretty shortly. But I just want to speak briefly to this idea of Jupiter. So Jupiter is, where the heck is Jupiter? Hello, Jupiter. Here's Jupiter in Pisces. Moving along, you'll see it enter Aries right here, pretty early in the month. And Aries is a sign, the Cancer, you just find irritating. Aries is so fast-moving and just doesn't really seem to value intuition. But all the Aries people in the world are about to have their day, and you're going to have to put up with it. I think that Jupiter in Aries, though, is going to be entering your 10th house, which is going to give you a lot of energy and actually put you into a career luck period this year. It'll last about a year, and it would be a really great idea to get a reading so that you can discover exactly when it starts and when it finishes. But suffice it to say that Jupiter passing along your 10th house is like a really great year to make your move. The next thing I wanted to tell you about is Ceres entering your sign and thus entering into your first house. Ceres is such a wonderfully grounding planet. It's the largest thing in the asteroid belt. And Ceres is about good stewardship and setting up good habits, getting into your body, managing your money well, and getting really grounded. And when it enters your sign, it's going to be there for several months, which is going to really help you get grounded. And that can be really helpful on those days when you might be feeling so emotional that you kind of forgot, how to stay in your body. So I think that this is going to be really good for you financially, and that combined with the Jupiter thing, pretty good stuff. One more little piece that I want to let you know about, which is that Juno is continuing along in Pisces, where it's going to be for much of the rest of the year. And I talked about it in last month's horoscope in April. So if you want to know more about that, Juno in Pisces in your 9th house, you can check last month's horoscope for that. Hey, Julia, what's going on with Mercury, Venus, and Mars for the Cancers of the world?
Wow, we got retrograde season going on because Mercury, the planet that rules communication and your mind, is going to be going backwards this month. So Cancer, Mercury starts in Gemini in your 12th house at the beginning of the month. And when Mercury is in the 12th house, the 12th house is a very, very hidden house. So planets in this house tend to kind of hide a little bit. They might not just be out in the open as much. So as Mercury in the 12th, you might be a lot more inclined to be keeping your thoughts to yourself or your communications in general to yourself. Now on May 10th, that's when Mercury is going to start going backwards. And when Mercury goes retrograde, it's a 3-week cycle. It happens about 3 times per year. And it's a time when all of the functions of Mercury go a little bit haywire. Anytime a planet goes backwards, it's just take the associations of that planet and, and then tend to make them a little bit more fraught. So when Mercury goes retrograde, that's a time of miscommunications, as well as having to sort of rethink and redo things. Now, the 12th house, it's not just a hidden house. It's the house of spirituality. It's the house of the subconscious. It's the house of charity. So during this Mercury retrograde cycle, you could be rethinking maybe your participation in volunteer work, service work, or charity. Maybe you've been giving a rolling donation to a cause that you really care about, but now you're not quite sure or a little bit confused about where you do want to be put putting your service work. And then on May 21st, we're going to be having Lesser Epiphany Day. And that's when Mercury conjoins the sun exactly. And it makes it, when it's Lesser Epiphany Day versus Greater Epiphany Day if it's happening during the retrograde cycle versus when Mercury is direct. So on May 21st, you might have a few kind of aha moments, maybe a little bit more insight into all the 12th house confusion you've been going through this month. But, you know, in general, Mercury retrograde in the 12th, you might be rethinking also your spiritual path, or, you know, this could be also a very interesting dream cycle. You know, the 12th house can rules dreams too. So you also might be having a lot of recurring dreams and just trying to figure out what's going on. Now, the next planet I'm going to mention is Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships. And very early in the month, on the 2nd, she's going to hop into your 10th house of career and authority figures. And she's going to stay there for most of the month. So when Venus is in the 10th, it is a wonderful time to get along well with the people that you work with. If you're looking for a new job, then Venus is a very social planet. So this could be a great time for networking and kind of calling up your old work contacts and asking for references. Venus in the 10th is because the 10th rules authority figures like your boss, your parents, or teachers, can be a wonderful time for also getting along and gaining their favor too. So that's a really lovely cycle to look forward to. Then on the last couple of days, on May 28th, Venus is going to be entering your 11th house of friends, where your social life might pick up a lot and you might find yourself connecting more to the friends and groups in your life. And we're going to really cover that cycle in depth into our next month's video. So please stay tuned for those. And then finally, we got to talk about Mars, the planet of action and drive, who's spending most of the month in your 9th house. The 9th house is the house of learning. It's the house of travel. It's also the house of legal affairs, and pretty much rules anything that broadens your horizons in life. So with Mars in the 9th until the 24th of May, you know, you could feel really, really driven to go on a trip, to have some kind of new experience, to sort of expand yourself in some way too, which is wonderful. It's a little bit frustrating if you don't have the opportunity to do all of that, because Mars in the 9th can go a little bit stir crazy. And there sometimes can be frustrations and flare-ups, especially if you're involved in some legal issue or if you're still going to school too. Then on May 24th, Mars is going to enter your 10th house, and Venus is going to be leaving it too at the end of the month. So at the very end of the month with Mars in the 10th, this might be a time of increased frustrations and conflicts with authority figures, and also with, you know, people that you work with in general. So definitely earlier on the month, a lot easier for work. And then the last week, there might be some challenges there too. But Mars in the 10th is really good for getting a lot of work done too. So if you've got a big project that you just got to, you know, chew through, the last week is going to be a great time for doing that.
Indeed. Well, we have got an eclipse and a moon to talk about now. There's a total lunar eclipse happening May 15th, and I want to show it to you. And here it is, the sun in Taurus opposite the moon in Scorpio, which is hanging out with the node, the south node in Scorpio. And this is a total eclipse, so it's going to be intense. And if that, you know, weren't enough, it's a moon in Scorpio, so it's going to be intense because of that as well. This being a lunar eclipse, it's going to be more emotional too, but fortunately there's a lot of harmony with this moon, help from Pluto, help from Mars and Neptune, which I think are going to help, you know, sort of smooth out the emotional highs and lows of this moon. Now for you, this falls in your 5th house of creativity. So there might be a big burst of creativity. And if you can channel the emotion and the intensity of this eclipse into your creative realm, like if you're a painter or a performance artist, then this moon could be extremely fruitful for creative output. And one thing that you have to bear in mind is that there's so much activity going on in your 11th house during this moon, this being a house of community, that you're going to have to keep in mind, you know, what do your friends think? What does your audience think? What does the community think of what you're creating? And if you're not an artist, then there is definitely the risk that this could be attended by some kind of really big, emotional outburst from you that that is kind of attention seeking. So watch out for these things around May 15th, and check out our video about this moon in our news video playlist for May 2022, or our forecast page on our website. The other moon I want to tell you about is coming up on the 30th. It's right at the end of the month. And this one is a new moon in Gemini. By this time, eclipse season will be over, thank goodness. Eclipses usually come in sets, 2 weeks apart, and there can be 1, 2, or 3 of them. This particular eclipse season has been fairly standard in that we've had just 2 eclipses, and by the end of the month, that's over. And so this moon is a lot lighter in the sense that it's a moon in Gemini. And so Gemini is not a moon sign that really is comfortable with deep feelings, but there could be emotion around partnership or community because of the square to Juno, but there is help from these planets over here, Mars, Chiron, those sorts of things. And you can find out a lot more about that in, of course, the playlist for May news. But suffice it to say that this new moon is happening in your 12th house, a house of dreams, a house of art, of imagination, certainly, and a house that's very hidden. It can refer to the unconscious of the family system that you live in. And so there could be some stirrings and some seeds planted, emotional seeds that can grow into something later. And so I think that this is a moon in which it's not a really good idea to talk to your partner in a dismissive way or a suppressing way to kind of suppress your partner's needs. But it is a good moon for having frank and earnest conversations about boundaries in your relationship, and to maybe point to some things that have been hidden and haven't been said before. Then the last thing I want to tell you about is we're having a seasonal change. Of course, as we begin this month, the sun is traveling along through the season of Taurus, and I spoke to that last month. And we move on into the season of Gemini around the 20th, 21st of the month. And this is a season of the profusion of flowers and baby bunnies. And it's really a season of proliferation, which speaks to the sheer distractibility and changeability of the sign of Gemini. So this is a season with a lot of stimulation in it. And you might find that that is a little bit overwhelming and that you actually want to retreat. You want to just curl up with a good book. That could be a great way to spend some of your time during the season of Gemini as the sun passes along through your 12th house of retreat, imagination, and turning inward. Well, that's what we have for you today, Cancer. You can always find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab of the navigation bar. And if anything in this horoscope interested you, and you want to find out more about it in your own life in a way that's much more personal and much more detailed, especially involving specific timing of events going on in your life, then you can get a reading in the readings tab. And also we offer classes as well. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.